everyone. Welcome back for day 2 of our virtual tours article. So we're talking about virtual travel today. I'm Kat.
I'm Mike.
And we yesterday saw a lot of natural sights.
That's right.
What kind of places?
Our article, Virtual Travel, Take a Trip Without Leaving Home. We didn't leave home, but we did go to the top of Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world.
Ooh.
Much safer to do it from your home because climbing a really tall mountain like that is expensive and possibly very, very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second place we went was another cold location, right? Lapland.
Mm-hmm.
What did we do in Lapland?
Saw the northern lights. We went on a tour of the wilderness. Sounded very, very pretty.
That's right. And then we went to the great old United States and we saw virtual Yosemite Park. Mm-hmm. Yosemite National Park in California is one of the great national parks of the world.
Yeah.
Of course, of America, but the world too. But of course, these days, you can't really travel to America. And if you do, you're going to have to come home and spend all that time at home and COVID-19. And oh my gosh, and Yosemite can be pretty busy in the summertime anyway, so we did it virtually using VR technology. We saw virtual tours, got 360 degrees of the area. It was great, and we didn't get eaten by a bear.
That's right. Or by mosquitoes.
Or mosquitoes.
So in day 2, as we said yesterday, we're looking at more man-made kind of sites. Although I think this first one is a little bit of a mix between man-made and nature.
That's true.
Yeah, but...
man made it, but nature made it cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you wouldn't be able to explore it the way it is if it weren't for nature.
Sounds interesting, right? So let's get to the article and find out where we're going today.
Okay.
Reading.
Virtual travel. Take a trip without leaving home. Globetrotter VR. Explore the MS Zenobia. This deep-sea virtual tour allows users to explore a famous shipwreck. The MS Zenobia sank in the Mediterranean in 1980 and took its cargo to the bottom of the sea. The ship is now known as a famous diving site. It's also a protected home to many kinds of sea life. Virtual tour of 5 Egyptian sites. Egypt's government announced these new virtual tours in April. They include 2 ancient royal tombs and 3 religious buildings. Users can take a virtual walk through these buildings to learn more about their history. Google's Arts and Culture Museum Tours. Google has worked with over 500 museums to open their virtual doors to the public. You can see all the art you want without ever leaving home. You can easily view the famous art collections of London's British Museum, New York's Guggenheim Museum, Paris's Musée d'Orsay, and more. You might prefer history, art, or the great outdoors. Either way, there's a virtual tour out there for you.
All right, so our article starts out today with a Globetrotter VR, and I think that's the name of the company.
Oh,
and
okay.
the tour is called Explore the MS Zenobia. Yeah, so the Zenobia was a ship. I say that because now it's not a ship, it's a shipwreck. This deep-sea virtual tour allows users to explore a famous shipwreck.
Cool.
Yeah, so allow somebody to do something is one of our first phrases here. That means to give someone the chance or give them the opportunity to do something. You could also say, let's users explore the famous shipwreck. And what is a shipwreck? Well, as I said, it was a ship. Now it's a shipwreck. And the reason it's no longer, a ship is because it crashed and it's at the bottom of the ocean. When a ship crashes or it turns over and it sinks, it goes down and then it just sits on the bottom of the ocean because it's too hard to get it back up. So it just sits there at the bottom of the ocean or the bottom of the lake or whatever. And it's called a shipwreck. And it's something that you can go explore when you're diving. And I think it's pretty popular for divers to go into shipwrecks and find out what's in there.
Yeah, but it can be dangerous. And
yeah,
of course,
for sure.
some shipwrecks, like the famous Titanic, are far too deep under the ocean to really go to or anything.
They had to get a special submarine to do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
But this one you can go to virtually. Isn't that cool? Let's find out about the Zenobia. It says the MS Zenobia sank in the Mediterranean in 1980 and took its cargo to the bottom of the sea.
Ooh.
Wow. No pirate treasure down there. Sorry, folks. But it was back in 1980. This boat, the Zenobia, it wasn't a passenger ship with people on it. It was probably carrying boxes of stuff. Anyway, so they had a problem with the Zenobia. Kat was saying this happened near Italy, and the captain did something wrong. And you know what usually happens with shipwrecks. Either someone does something wrong, or something breaks on the ship, or the weather gets really bad, or all three of those things happen at the same time.
The ship turned over.
Anyways, the ship flipped over, which is not the way it should go.
No.
And it filled with water and it sank. So there you go. In the Mediterranean in 1980. The Mediterranean, of course, that sea between Europe and Africa, the one that Italy sticks down into the middle of. And it took the Zenobia, not Italy, the Zenobia took its cargo to the bottom of the sea. I should say cargo is what a ship carries. You could say passengers or human cargo, but not really. We're usually talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Those big ships you see in Geelong or Kaohsiung with the boxes on them carrying everything from computers to socks to cars to rice, food, all sorts of junk like that. Anyway, so here you go. The cargo and the ship went to the bottom of the Mediterranean back in 1980, but people have been visiting it ever since then, or recently, certainly.
Yeah. Actually, the shipwreck is not that deep. It's like only a few dozen meters down.
That's good. So we have some sunlight down there.
Yeah. So you can actually see pretty well. So the ship is now known as a famous diving site. Yeah, so known as, we've got a phrase here, it's known as. To be known as means that people know it for this reason. It's famous for this. So maybe before, when it was just a cargo ship, the Zenobia wasn't that famous. But when it sank, and it sank in this very convenient location for diving, it became famous because people were like, hey, we can go down and explore this. So that's why it's known. It's known as a diving site. And diving is the noun. Now, diving means going underwater to explore if you have the verb dive, but then if you turn it to a noun, call it diving, like diving site, diving school, diving gear, something like that. Something that has to do with diving. It means, going underwater to explore things. Like usually you would use a scuba tank or a snorkel. There's also free diving where you don't have any kind of air and you just hold your breath. It's for people who are very daring and brave. Now, the verb, as I said, is dive, and a person who does diving is called a diver. So an example sentence might be, we met at the boat early in the morning to begin our day-long diving trip. And we also have this word here, site. Now, a site is a place where there's a particular thing to see. Now, if you're talking about a diving site, that means it's a place where it's mainly known for diving. Other sites might be nature sites or anything else that you can see or something that has a particular purpose. That would be a site, an S-I-T-E site, different from a S-I-G-H-T site.
Very nice. But of course, to do a diving trip like that or to see the Zenobia, you need training and special equipment and all that stuff. So if you can do it virtually, why not? And there are other things to see down there apart from this broken old ship. It says it's also a protected home to many kinds of sea life.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Shipwrecks are popular to go diving at because, of course, it's cool to see a ship at the bottom of the ocean, right? That's kind of weird and interesting. But also because ships turn into sort of homes for many kinds of sea life.
Yeah.
We could say many kinds of fish, but there are also coral and, plants and all sorts of weird little animals that attach themselves to the ship. Starfish, all that stuff. We can cover everything from sharks down to the smallest little sea worm by using the term sea life.
Yeah.
So you can see all sorts of sea life down there, and you don't have to get wet. You don't have to, go out on the ocean. You don't have to know how to dive. You can do it virtually. So there you go. But now it's time to move on from Italy, dry off, and head to the desert.
Yeah, we're getting really dry here because we're going to, as you said, a desert and one of the most deserty deserts. So it's Egypt. It's a virtual tour of 5 Egyptian sites. So this is actually quite a new one because it says Egypt's government announced these new virtual tours in April. Yeah, so we have this first word in here. We actually have two vocab words, but the first one is government. A government is a noun that is talking about kind of a big group of people. It's like the leaders of a country or an organized group that runs a country. Now, you might have the president is the leader of the government, and there's the vice president, there's senators and like lawmakers, people who make the laws, those are part of the government. You might also have employees who do smaller jobs, like people who work in a national bank. Those are government employees.
Teachers, police officers, people in the army. They all work for the government, right?
Yeah, they all do. Even if they're not, considered like a big leader, they're still part of the government. Yeah, so it has to do with running a country. And if you run a country, you govern it. So that's what the president does. The president governs the country. Or a governor can govern a state. Yeah.
Very cool. And so what did the Egyptian government do?
Well, first we got an example sentence
for
government.
Let's announce our example sentence.
Yes. Actually, we have announce again in this one.
Oh,
the
cool.
government just announced that work and school tomorrow will be canceled because a typhoon is coming.
That's what governments do. They announce things.
Yes, they do.
They do many other things too. But one of the big things they do that touch our lives is when they announce things. And to announce, no matter who does it, is basically to say something important out in public because you want people to know. All right? It could be something like, all right, everyone, I'm going to the store, or something like that. I'm telling everyone maybe they want me to buy them something, or maybe if someone calls on the telephone, they know that I'm not home, but I want them to know. That's why I'm telling everyone. Now, of course, governments will announce more important stuff like, hey, there's no school and work tomorrow because of a typhoon, or hey, because of COVID-19, everyone must wear a mask on the bus and MRT. If they don't announce these things, we won't know.
Exactly.
People won't get the important and useful and maybe life-saving information they need, and things will be much more complicated and difficult. So when you announce things, you're basically putting out news, putting out some kind of important information that people need to know. So you're saying it, you're printing it up on the internet or putting it on posters, you're having people on the news read about it that day or whatever because you want as many people to hear this information. Or it could be something a little more personal. Let's look at our example sentence to get an idea of one of those things you might announce. Jack and Melissa have announced that they are going to get married next year.
Yay.
This wasn't on the news or maybe even in a newspaper, but certainly on their Facebook page. They probably sent out messages to their friends and told people at their job or work or school or, at a family dinner or something, we have some big news.
Yeah.
We're getting married next year. Oh, that's so exciting. You might also soon after, maybe 9 months later, announce we're going to have a baby or something like that, right? These are big things in your life. Maybe not enough to make the news, but certainly enough to be news to your family and friends. All right, so.
Unless you're a celebrity, then it's big enough
Then
to
it's
make
big
the
news.
Yeah.
That's right. If Jay-Z and Beyonce are having another kid, that would be big news. Or the Prince of England or whatever. Anyways, let's get back to the article. It says these virtual tours include 2 ancient royal tombs and 3 religious buildings. Wow. So that's what you'll get to see of these Egyptian sites. Of course, we're going back to ancient times, to the times of pyramids and pharaohs and Cleopatra and Ramses II and Tutankhamun and things like that. And that's what you can see on these virtual tours of Egyptian sites. There are 5 of them, and including these 2 royal tombs and these 3 religious buildings. Now, when we use include here, we're talking about making or being a part of something bigger. All right, so you could talk about, this dinner includes a soup and a salad and a main course and a dessert. That's all part of the dinner, okay? So we're talking about something that is made up of other smaller parts, but you take all those parts together and you have something bigger, more interesting, something that you need to give a few more details about, need to give a bit more information about, What does it include? What is part of this bigger thing? For example, a good party will always include lots of food and drink. It will also include people, probably entertainment, music. All of these things will go into making a good party. So a good party includes lots of things, including food and drink.
Right. So royal here is an adjective talking about the family or property of kings and queens. So the king and queen themselves, they're royal, but also their family is royal. So the royal family could include princes, princesses, dukes, duchesses, and so on and so on. The royal property would be like castles, palaces, royal weddings, or the royal baby, which is, when the news talks about like one of the royal family members is having a baby, they say it's the royal baby. It's kind of weird. But anyway, an example of that might be Buckingham Palace is the main royal residence in London, England. Yeah, so this is some royal tombs, which means it's the tombs of either an Egyptian king or queen or somebody related to them. And a tomb is basically a grave, but it's a really big grave because if you're a royal, they would build you a really, really big place to house your body. Like the pyramids in Egypt, those are all tombs. If you can believe it, they're all built for one person each. It's pretty crazy. But in the next part of the article, we're talking about what you can do at these royal tombs and religious buildings. Users can take a virtual walk through these buildings to learn more about their history.
Cool. That sounds pretty awesome because, of course, the pyramids are really famous, really big, and I don't think you can get into them very easily. They might have tours, but I think you need to book it specially or maybe be like a professor of Egyptian history.
Yeah.
I don't think they're open for us normal, common, dirty people.
Probably because they don't want it to be touched.
No, and they're really
old.
Small, so you'd have to like squeeze all these people in and people would be breathing everywhere. And, So anyway, so that's kind of cool. You can get into a place like inside the pyramids that probably, as a normal person, as a normal tourist, you couldn't do that. All right, so let's move on to some more great art and culture with something called Google's Arts and Culture Museum Tours. Google has worked with over 500 museums to open their virtual doors to the public. That is pretty awesome. If you like arts and culture, if you're a culture vulture, as some people would say, there are 500 museums from all around the world, and they've all been collected together by Google, and they have virtual tours of every single one of them.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, obviously it's a great thing you can do because the article says you can see all the art you want without ever leaving home. You can just walk through, you can see like, hey, this is where that painting is and this is how it's hung up or how big it is.
So you can tour a museum while eating potato chips.
Yep.
Which you can't do in a normal museum because no eating allowed.
And you could even, if you really felt naughty, you could even put your potato chip covered fingers on your screen and touch the painting.
Oh, no, don't do that.
That's
don't do
gross.
that. But there won't
I'm
be people in
kidding.
front of you taking pictures of these things with their phone cameras.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I remember going to the Louvre and seeing the Mona Lisa, and I was honestly kind of mad because there were so many people.
Yeah, it's overrated.
Yeah, it is, honestly. But anyway, we have our grammar point here, and it's without ever leaving, or without noun, or without verb-ing. So if you say you're doing something without noun, it means you don't have that thing when the sentence happens. So for example, if you say, I went to school without my umbrella, it means I went to school not having my umbrella today, so I got wet from the rain. I went to school with my umbrella means you took your umbrella, but without means you didn't take it. Now, if you do without verbing, it means you don't do verb when the sentence happens. So without just shows that you don't have that thing or you didn't do that thing when this thing was happening that you're talking about. So for an example of that, I went to school without eating breakfast. That means I didn't eat breakfast before or when I went to school. Now, in the article sentence, it basically means if you can see all the art you want without ever leaving home, it means you don't have to leave home and you can still see all the art you want. Now, remember, you had to have ing. You can't use to. You can't just use the plain verb. It's got to be without doing something.
Very, very cool. So, yeah, some of the museums, just a few of the museums that you might be able to, or you might want to see on Google's Arts and Culture Museum tours. We read you can easily view the famous art collections of London's British Museum, New York's Guggenheim Museum, Paris's Musée d'Orsay, and more. So there you go.
Could spend days doing that.
Years. Collection. What is a collection? And a collection is an organized group of stuff, basically. So it's, I like something and I have many examples of the things that I like. That is a collection. It might be planned. It might be organized. If
Do you have a collection?
If you bought a Spider-Man comic 7 years ago, that's not a collection.
No.
If you have 70 Spider-Man comics and you have them organized by date and time and things like that, that is a collection. Yes, I have a collection. I have several collections, actually.
Oh, what's your favorite?
My favorite, I have a book collection.
Okay.
Several thousand.
Wow.
I have a CD collection. 1,000 or plus.
Wow.
And I have a vinyl record collection of 500 or 600.
Wow.
They take up some space, but they're very organized. And don't talk to my wife because she might have something else to say about my collections. Here's a good example in our example sentence. Each comic book in Norma's collection is kept in its own plastic bag. Wow, she's keeping them in really good condition. And you might sell them, you might trade them, you might buy them on eBay or something like that.
Or you might just tell people, no, you can't touch them.
Don't touch them. Don't even look at them. Exactly. But that's a collection. So it's organized. And of course, museums are where they have really big and important collections of all sorts of different types of stuff.
Yeah, so you might prefer history, art, or the great outdoors. We're talking about all the tours that we've talked about here. Either way, there's a virtual tour out there for you.
Cool.
Yay.
I bet there's even toy museums.
I bet you there are.
Yeah, there's a toy museum in London
children's
I went
museums.
to. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I bet you there's so many different kinds of museums you can explore.
Yep.
All right, but either way here, this is our last little thing. It basically means whichever you like. If you like history, if you like art, if you like nature, no matter what, either way, you can find something. So that's all we've got.
All right, I'm going to go get my virtual goggles.
Yeah.
I'm going.
I think it's a pretty good surface kind of, overview of some virtual tours you can take. I'm sure there are tons more. All right, so with that said, we're going to go to our For You chat right now.
For You chat.
All right, so our chat question today, what are other ways to see and learn about the world while you're at home?
Read a book.
I mean, yeah.
You know.
That's the obvious answer.
Well, not really see. You can't really see.
But
I
you
guess
can
it's
learn
a picture
about.
book, but you could read, magazines or something with pictures.
Yep.
But you can definitely learn about the world while reading a book. That's a good way. And, people have been doing it for a few hundred years.
Yeah.
So that works.
Yeah.
Well, watch TV? Does anyone still watch TV?
I don't think people watch that much TV
I guess
anymore.
some people do, but there are still some good channels, like we mentioned, Discovery Channel, Nat Geo, Animal Planet.
Yeah.
Those are I like TV just because sometimes you see stuff you didn't expect.
Yeah. I also listen to a lot of podcasts, especially
That's another good way, yeah.
When I'm doing chores at home, I like to listen to things like Stuff You Should Know, and it's always a different topic. It's
There you
always
go.
things I didn't expect.
There are lots of ways to do it, and then once the coronavirus has gone away, you can go to those places that you're interested in and see them for yourself. But if not, VR, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Why not?
So that's what we've got for you today and yesterday. So for English for You, I'm Kat.
I'm Mike.
We'll see you next time.
See you out there. Bye.
Virtual travel. Take a trip without leaving home. Globetrotter VR. Explore the MS Zenobia. This deep-sea virtual tour allows users to explore a famous shipwreck. The MS Zenobia sank in the Mediterranean in 1980 and took its cargo to the bottom of the sea. The ship is now known as a famous diving site. It's also a protected home to many kinds of sea life. Virtual tour of 5 Egyptian sites. Egypt's government announced these new virtual tours in April. They include 2 ancient royal tombs and 3 religious buildings. Users can take a virtual walk through these buildings to learn more about their history. Google's Arts and Culture Museum Tours. Google has worked with over 500 museums to open their virtual doors to the public. You can see all the art you want without ever leaving home. You can easily view the famous art collections of London's British Museum, New York's Guggenheim Museum, Paris's Musée d'Orsay, and more. You might prefer history, art, or the great outdoors. Either way, there's a virtual tour out there for you.
Vocabulary Review.
Diving. This summer, Amy went diving in the sea around Green Island and saw many beautiful fish. Government. This country's government is making a new law to help create more jobs. Announce. The museum announced to the public that it would close for a few months due to COVID-19. Include. This set meal includes a side dish, drink, and dessert at a cheap price. Royal. The king, the queen, and all their children are part of the royal family. Collection. Harry has a large collection of coins from all over the world.
智慧小补帖
Shipwreck. Cargo. Site. Tomb.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作。活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net